"Can you open this? My late mom left it to me." The words hung in the sterile hospital air like a prayer nobody knew how to answer. 7-year-old Nadia stood there, her trembling hands clutching a wooden box painted with fading daisies, her eyes holding the kind of pain that shouldn't exist in someone so young. The man she'd approached, a complete stranger, drowning in his own grief, had no idea that in the next 30 seconds, both their lives would change forever. What was inside that box would shatter him completely. But sometimes being broken is the only way to let the light in. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. Excuse me, are you strong? Archer Lowe looked up from his cold coffee to find a small girl standing beside his table. She couldn't have been more than 7, maybe 8, wearing a blue sweater that hung loose on her thin frame. A blue knit cap covered her head completely, and her hands, those tiny, trembling hands, clutched a wooden box like it contained the secrets of the universe. "This is stuck." She held up the box, and he could see her fingers shaking with more than just effort. "I've been trying for 3 days, but my hands, they don't work so good anymore." The words "anymore" hit something deep in Archer's chest. He noticed the IV port partially visible under her collar, the dark circles beneath her eyes that looked like bruises against her pale skin. "Would you like me to try?" The girl hesitated, pulling the box closer to her chest. "It's very special. You have to be careful." "Promise you'll be careful?" "I promise," Archer said, pulling out the chair next to him. "Why don't you sit down? I'm Archer, by the way." "Nadia," she replied, climbing onto the chair with visible effort. She placed the box on the table, but kept both hands on it, as if afraid it might disappear. "That's pretty stuck, huh?" Archer examined the box carefully. It was handmade, with small painted daisies covering the lid, some flowers vibrant, others fading. The latch had been painted over multiple times, sealed shut by layers of love and time. "This is beautiful," he said, pulling out his pocket knife. "Someone made this just for you?" Nadia nodded, but didn't elaborate, her eyes tracking every movement of his hands as he worked the blade carefully around the latch. The cafeteria buzzed around them. Nurses grabbing quick dinners, families waiting for news, the eternal rhythm of hospital life. But their table felt like an island of suspended time. "You were sitting here for a really long time," Nadia said suddenly. "I was watching you. You kept looking at your phone but not really seeing it. My mama used to do that with my picture." Archer's hand stilled for a moment. This child had been watching him? For how long? And why? "Sometimes phones are just something to look at," he said carefully, returning to the latch. "No," Nadia said with the certainty only children possess. "You were looking at someone who isn't here anymore." The knife slipped slightly, but Archer caught it. "What makes you think that?" "Because you have the same look my mama had near the end, like you're carrying something heavy that no one else can see, like you're broken but trying not to show it." Finally, with a small click that seemed to echo in the space between them, the latch freed, the box could open. But Nadia didn't move, her eyes filled with tears that she blinked back fiercely. "Hey," Archer said gently, "what's wrong? I didn't break it, did I?" She shook her head. "It's just that now that I can open it, I'm scared." "Why are you scared, Nadia?" The little girl was quiet for so long that Archer wondered if she'd answer at all. Around them, the hospital cafeteria continued its dance, trays clattering, coffee brewing, lives intersecting briefly before spinning away. But Nadia seemed to gather courage from somewhere deep inside, the same strength that had given her to approach a stranger. "My mama made this box," she finally whispered. "She died 4 months ago." The words landed between them like stones in still water, ripples expanding outward. Archer felt his chest tighten, remembering another death, another loss that had brought him to this very cafeteria. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. She was sick for a really long time. We didn't have a home anymore because she couldn't work. We stayed in shelters, moving around a lot. But she always kept this box safe, even when we had to leave everything else behind. Even when she could barely walk, she protected this box. She must have loved you very much. She did, Nadia's voice cracked like thin ice. On her last day in the shelter medical room, she could barely talk. Her voice was all whispers and air. But she held my hand so tight and told me about the box. She said there was something inside for me, but I couldn't open it alone. Archer waited, sensing there was more. She said I'd know when I found the right person to open it with. Someone who would understand. Someone who knew what it was like to have a broken heart that still keeps beating even when you don't want it to. Archer felt exposed, like this child could see straight through him. And you think I understand? I know you do, Nadia said simply. When I saw you sitting here all alone, staring at nothing and everything at the same time, I just knew. You've lost someone too, haven't you? Someone who made you whole? The question unlocked something in Archer. My wife, 6 months ago. Sudden stroke at 39. What was her name? Camila. That's a pretty name. Did she work here? She was a nurse. We used to meet in this cafeteria for lunch when she had breaks. I did electrical work in the East Wing today. Told myself I was just grabbing coffee, but you wanted to be where she was, Nadia finished. I understand. Sometimes I go to the shelter where Mama died. They don't let me in, but I stand outside and remember. Where do you live now, Nadia? Willowbrook Foster Home. But I'm here at the hospital most of the time. I have leukemia. Found out 2 months after Mama died. Mrs. Potts, she's my social worker. She says that's why nobody wants to adopt me. What do you mean? Nadia shrugged with practiced indifference. I'm too sick. Too expensive. Too much trouble. The treatments cost a lot and I throw up all the time. Sometimes I can't walk. My hair fell out, touched her knit cap, and the doctors say I have at least 8 more months of treatment, maybe more. Who wants a kid like that? Archer felt anger rise in his throat, not at Nadia, but at a world that could make a 7-year-old believe she was too much trouble. You're not trouble, Nadia. You're a little girl who deserves love. That's what Mama used to say. But Mama's gone. She looked at the box again. Will you stay while I open it? I don't want to be alone when I read what she wrote. She promised she left me a letter. With shaking hands that seemed too small for such a momentous task, Nadia lifted the lid. The hinges, frozen for months, creaked softly. Inside, on a bed of worn fabric that might have once been part of a dress, lay 3 items. A folded letter on paper that had seen better days. A small cloth doll with mismatched button eyes and yarn hair. And a photograph. Daisy! Nadia gasped, snatching up the doll and pressing it to her chest. I thought I lost her. Mama made her for me when I was 3. We were staying in a church basement, and she used scraps from the donation bin. See, this button is from a fancy coat, and this one is from baby clothes. Mama said Daisy was like us, made from pieces of other people's lives, but still whole. She set Daisy carefully on the table and picked up the photograph with the reverence of someone handling a religious relic. That was last year, before I knew she was dying. She told me we were just on an adventure, that we were explorers finding new places. I believed her. I always believed her. The photograph showed a woman, gaunt but radiant, holding a younger, healthier-looking Nadia. Both were laughing at something beyond the camera's view, caught in a moment of pure joy that poverty and illness couldn't touch. Finally, Nadia picked up the letter. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't unfold it. My eyes get blurry from the medicine, she said, though Archer suspected it was more than that. Could you read it, please? Archer took the letter, his heart breaking at the shaky handwriting, the places where the ink had run from what were clearly teardrops. He cleared his throat, suddenly understanding the weight of this moment. He was about to become the voice of a dead mother speaking to a dying daughter. My precious Nadia, my warrior girl, my everything. If you're reading this, it means I had to leave before I was ready. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm sorrier than all the words in the world could ever say. I wanted to be there for your first day of high school, your graduation, your wedding. I wanted to teach you to drive and badly braid your hair for picture day and embarrass you in front of your friends. But most of all, I wanted to be there for what's coming next.
Baby, I need to tell you something, and I need you to be brave like I know you are. The doctors told me something I never told you. The sickness I have, it's in our family. There's a chance you might get sick too. I pray every night that you won't, but if you do, I need you to know this. You are not alone. You will never be alone. The person reading this letter with you, look at them, baby. Really look at them. Nadia looked up at Archer, studying his face with those two old eyes, and he felt something shift in the air between them. You chose them for a reason. Your heart knew what your mind might not understand yet. This person is going to be important. Trust them. Let them help you. I need you to know that you were never, ever a burden to me. Every night we went hungry, I was full because I got to look at you. Every time we had to move, it was an adventure because you were with me. You turned a cardboard box into a castle, a shelter cot into a magic carpet. You are magic, Nadia, pure magic. If you do get sick, fight. Fight with everything you have, not because you're afraid to join me. I'll wait for you forever if I have to, but because the world needs your light. Someone out there needs exactly the kind of love only you can give. Archer had to stop, his voice breaking. Nadia reached over and patted his hand, this dying child comforting him. "It's okay," she whispered. "Keep going, please." Remember when we used to watch the sunrise through the shelter window? You'd ask me why the sun came up every day, even when things were hard? I told you it was because the sun had a job to do, to bring light to people who needed it. You're like that sun, baby. You have a job to do. There are people who need your light. To whoever is with my daughter right now, she chose you. In all this big, lonely world, she chose you to share this moment. That means something. She has a gift for seeing hearts, for knowing who's safe, who's kind, who needs love as much as she does. Please, if you can, don't let her be alone. She's been alone too much already. She's 7 years old and she's already faced more than most adults. She deserves birthday parties and bedtime stories and someone to check for monsters under the bed, even though the real monsters are the ones in her blood. Archer looked at Nadia, who had tears streaming down her face, Daisy clutched to her chest. "Nadia, my love, my heart, my reason. Be brave. Love hard even when it hurts. Trust the person beside you. And know that wherever I am, I'm loving you. Every sunset, every flower, every moment of joy you feel, that's me, loving you from wherever I am now. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. Being your mama was the greatest privilege of my life. Until we meet again in the sunrise. Mama. P.S. I hid Daisy in here so you'd have something to hold when the needles hurt. She's brave like you." The letter fluttered to the table as Archer set it down with shaking hands. Nadia had buried her face in Daisy, her small body shaking with sobs that seemed too big for someone so small. "She knew," she choked out between gasps. "She knew I'd get sick. She knew I'd be alone." Without hesitation, without thought, Archer pulled her into his arms. She was so light, like holding air and heartbreak and hope all at once. Her bones felt fragile like bird wings through the thin sweater. "You're not alone," he whispered fiercely into her knit cap. "Not anymore." "The treatments make me so sick. I throw up until there's nothing left. Then I throw up nothing. My bones hurt like they're breaking from the inside. Sometimes I can't even stand up. And nobody holds my hand. Nobody tells me it's going to be okay. Mrs. Potts tries, but she has 23 other kids to watch. Archer held her tighter, thinking of his son Chase at home, healthy and safe, and probably playing video games. Thinking of all the times he'd taken that for granted. 6 months ago when Camila died, he thought he'd never feel anything again. But this child, this brave, broken child, was cracking something open in his chest. "How often are your treatments?" he asked when her sobs quieted to hiccups.
3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 4 hours each time. She pulled back, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. The worst part is the waiting room. All the other kids have someone. Parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or someone. I just have whoever from the foster home can drive me. Usually it's Mr. Gregg, and he just sits on his phone. He doesn't even look at me. What if that changed? Archer heard himself say, the words coming from somewhere deeper than thought. What if someone was there, every treatment? Nadia's eyes widened, hope and disbelief warring in them. You mean like a volunteer? They have those, but they're usually assigned to the little kids. I am a little kid, Archer said gently. You're 7. No, Nadia said seriously. I'm 7 years old, but I'm not a little kid anymore. Little kids have parents. The words were a knife to Archer's heart. What if you had family again? Not the same as before, but something new? You want to be my family? Nadia whispered, the words barely audible. But you don't even know me. I might die. The doctors say the chances are good, but sometimes I hear them whispering. I know what poor prognosis means. My son Chase is 8, Archer said, surprising himself with how clearly he could see this path forward. His mom died 6 months ago. We're both pretty broken right now. We don't laugh much. The house is too quiet. But maybe broken people can help fix each other. You have a son? Nadia asked. Does he like books? I love books, but the foster home only has old ones with pages missing. He loves books and Legos and really terrible jokes that make no sense. I don't know any jokes, Nadia admitted. Mama and I never had much to laugh about. Then Chase will teach you. He knows hundreds. What do you say, Nadia? Will you let us try? The next Monday, Archer was there when the van from Willowbrook Foster Home pulled up to the hospital. Nadia's face when she saw him waiting could have powered the entire city. She ran, despite her weakness, straight into his arms. You came! You actually came! I told you I would. People say a lot of things.
Archer held her hand when they inserted the IV, feeling her squeeze so hard he thought his bones might break, but he didn't let go. He read to her from a book he'd brought, The Secret Garden, because it seemed right, a story about broken children finding healing. When the nausea hit, he held the bucket, rubbed her back, and told her about Chase, about Camila, about the life they used to have and the life they were trying to build. Tell me about your mama, he said during a particularly bad wave. What was her favorite thing? Sunrises, Nadia gasped between heaves. She said they were proof that no matter how dark things got, light always came back. We watched them together whenever we could, even if it meant waking up in a shelter or a car or wherever we were staying. Chase came after school, dropped off by a neighbor. Archer watched nervously as his son approached the sick little girl, wondering if he'd made a mistake, but Chase just pulled out his Pokemon cards and said, "Want to see something cool?" He didn't flinch when Nadia had to grab the bucket. He just rubbed her back like his mom used to do for him and kept talking about the different Pokemon, their powers, their evolutions. Evolution is when they change into something stronger, like maybe you're evolving too. The medicine is helping you become stronger. Or killing me, Nadia said matter-of-factly. No, Chase said firmly. My mom was a nurse. She said medicine that makes you sick is sometimes the kind that makes you better. Like how you have to break a bone sometimes to set it right. Your mom sounds smart. She was, Chase said simply. But now we have my dad, and he's pretty smart too. And you have us. The treatments were brutal. There were days Nadia couldn't keep water down. Days when her fever spiked to dangerous levels. Nights in the pediatric ward where Archer slept in the chair beside her bed because she was terrified of being alone in the dark. Why are you doing this? She asked one night, her voice barely a whisper in the dim room. I'm not your real daughter. What makes a daughter real? Archer asked. Is it blood?
Or is it showing up? Is it DNA? Or is it holding your hand when you're scared? I don't know. I think, Archer said slowly, your mama knew exactly what she was doing when she told you to wait for the right person to open that box. I think somehow she knew we'd find each other. That's impossible. So is a 7-year-old being as brave as you are. But here we are. Mrs. Potts, the social worker, watched it all with careful eyes and mountains of paperwork. After 2 months, she pulled Archer aside. You know you don't have to do this. Nadia would understand if it's too much. The other kids at the home, they're used to people coming and going, volunteers who mean well but can't handle the reality. My wife was a nurse, Archer replied, exhausted but determined. She always said that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when the showing up is hard. I'm showing up. Even if the treatment doesn't work, the new protocol they want to try, it's aggressive, risky. Archer looked through the window at Nadia and Chase, heads bent together over a puzzle, Chase patiently helping her when her hands shook too much to place the pieces. Especially then. The paperwork for emergency foster placement began. Background checks that scrutinized every aspect of Archer's life. Home visits where social workers checked every outlet, every sharp corner, every possible danger. Interviews that asked the same questions different ways, probing for any sign he might not be serious. Why do you want to foster a terminally ill child? They asked. She's not terminally ill, Archer corrected. She's fighting. There's a difference. But if she doesn't make it, then she won't die alone. She won't die thinking she was too much trouble. She'll die knowing she was loved, that she mattered, that someone fought as hard for her as she's fighting for herself. When they interviewed Chase, asking how he felt about Nadia possibly living with them, he said simply, "She's already my sister. We're just making it official. And she's going to get better. I know it." "How do you know?" "Because she promised to teach me how to watch sunrises the way her mama taught her. You can't break a promise like that."
Month 5 of treatment nearly broke them all. Nadia's body stopped responding to the first protocol. Her white blood cells plummeted. She lost more weight, becoming skeletal, spending more time unconscious than awake. Archer took family medical leave from work, burning through savings Camila had insisted they keep for emergencies. "This qualifies," he told her picture one night. "I hope you understand." He and Chase essentially moved into the hospital. They took turns reading to Nadia when she was conscious, singing the songs her mother used to sing, learned from a video the shelter had made of her mother months before, telling her stories about the sunrise even when her eyes wouldn't open. Please, Archer found himself praying to whoever might be listening, to Camila, to Nadia's mother, to the universe itself. Please don't take her. We just found each other. The doctor started a new protocol. Aggressive, experimental, their last real shot. The side effects were severe. Nadia's skin blistered. Her throat became so raw she couldn't speak. But through it all, she held on to Daisy with one hand and Archer or Chase with the other. If you've ever wondered whether miracles still happen, whether love can truly heal, whether families can be born from loss, don't click away. This story isn't over, and neither's hope. Slowly, so slowly that at first no one dared believe it, she began to improve. Her blood count stabilized, then started climbing. The cancer cells that had been multiplying relentlessly began retreating. The doctors used words like responding and promising, and finally, remission. The day the word remission was spoken, Chase started crying and couldn't stop. "I was so scared," he admitted, clinging to Nadia. "I already lost Mom. I couldn't lose you too." "You won't," Nadia promised, though she was crying too. "I'm too stubborn. Ask anybody." By month 7, she could walk short distances without help. By month 8, she was racing Chase down the hospital corridors when the nurses weren't looking, her laughter echoing off the walls like music. The day Nadia was officially released from active treatment, moving to monitoring phase, Archer and Chase were there with a banner that read, "Welcome home, warrior princess." But the real homecoming came a week later, when the adoption papers were finalized. The courthouse was old, with high ceilings and windows that let in streams of morning light. Nadia stood before the judge, still thin, still wearing a knit cap over her slowly growing hair, holding Daisy in one hand and Archer's hand in the other. Chase stood on her other side, their own hands linked. "Do you want this adoption, Nadia?" the judge asked gently. "Yes," she said clearly, her voice strong despite everything she'd been through. "My mama told me I'd find my family. She was right. She's always right." "And you, Chase, do you want Nadia to be your sister?" "She already is," Chase said. "This is just paperwork." The judge smiled. "Mr. Lowe, you're taking on a significant responsibility. Nadia will need continued medical care, monitoring, possible future treatments. Are you prepared for that?" Archer thought of Camilla, how she would have loved this brave little girl, how she would have opened their home without hesitation. "Your Honor, 6 months ago I lost my wife. I thought I'd never feel whole again. Chase and I were drowning, just going through the motions of living. Then Nadia walked up to me in a hospital cafeteria and asked me to open a box. Inside that box was a letter from her mother, but really it was a map to finding family where you least expect it, to discovering that love multiplies when you give it away, to learning that sometimes the best families are the ones you choose. Then by the power vested in me by the state, I declare this adoption final. Congratulations to the Lowe family, all 3 of you." The bang of the gavel sounded like a beginning. That night, as Archer tucked both children into bed for the first time in their shared room, Nadia had been too scared to sleep alone, and Chase had immediately offered to share. Nadia pulled out her mother's letter. "Dad," she said, the new word still unfamiliar but precious on her tongue. "Do you think Mama and Chase's mom are friends in heaven? I think they're up there together, probably planning all this from the beginning." "Planning what?" "How to make sure their kids weren't alone. How to turn 3 broken hearts into one whole family. How to teach us that sometimes the worst things that happen to us can lead to the best things." "Mama was right," Nadia said, hugging Daisy close. "She said love multiplies when you give it away. I didn't understand then, but I do now." "What do you mean?" "I loved her, just her, and that love felt so big it filled up my whole heart. But now I love you and Chase too, and somehow my heart got bigger. The love didn't divide, it multiplied, just like she said it would." Chase climbed out of his bed and into Nadia's, careful not to jostle her. "Tell us about the sunrises again, the ones you watched with your mom." Nadia smiled, settling between her brother and father. "Mama said every sunrise was a promise that no matter how dark the night got, light would always come back. She said we were sunrise people, the ones who get up early enough to see the promises being kept. Can we watch one tomorrow? All 3 of us?" "Every tomorrow," Archer promised. "Every single tomorrow we get." 2 years have passed since that day in the hospital cafeteria. Nadia's hair has grown back in soft brown curls that Camila would have loved to braid. She still has checkups every 3 months, still carries Daisy to every appointment, still reads her mother's letter when the fear creeps in. But she's not alone. She has a father who shows up to every appointment, who holds her hand during every blood draw, who celebrates every clear scan with ice cream for breakfast. She has a brother who taught her to ride a bike, who shares his Halloween candy even though she can only eat certain kinds, and who still sleeps in the same room, because nightmares are less scary when you're not alone. And she has a home. Not just a house, but a home where she's not too expensive, or too much trouble, or too sick to love. She's exactly enough. She's exactly right. She's exactly where she belongs. The wooden box sits on their mantel now, next to photos of Camila and Nadia's mother, 2 women who never met, but whose love transcended death to bring their children together. Sometimes Archer finds Nadia standing there, talking quietly to both pictures, telling them about her day, her dreams, her fears, her joys. "Do you miss her?" he asked once, finding her there on the 2nd anniversary of her mother's death. "Every day," Nadia replied.
but missing her doesn't hurt the same way anymore. It's like, remember when I had that surgery and the doctor said the scar would always be there, but eventually it would fade and stop hurting? Yes. Missing her is like that. The scar is always there, but now it's just part of me. It doesn't hurt to touch it anymore, and sometimes when I see a sunrise or smell lavender, she always smelled like lavender from this lotion the shelter gave out, sometimes I feel like she's right here. I feel that way about Camila sometimes, especially when I see you and Chase together. She would have loved you so much, Nadia. She does love me, she corrected. Love like that doesn't die. It just changes shape, like water becoming clouds, becoming rain. Different forms, same love. And every sunrise, just as she promised, Nadia stands at the window, sometimes alone, sometimes with Chase, sometimes with Archer, sometimes with all three of them together. She watches the sky change from black to purple to pink to gold, and she whispers the same words. Hi, Mama. I'm still shining, just like you asked. And guess what? I'm teaching others to shine too. Chase and Dad, they're sunrise people now. We all are. We get up early enough to see the promises being kept. The sun always rises, the light always returns, and somewhere, two mothers smile, knowing their children found exactly what they needed, each other. Love doesn't divide when you share it. It multiplies. It grows. It heals. It transforms strangers in a hospital cafeteria into family, turns a wooden box into a bridge between worlds, makes broken hearts whole again, not by replacing what was lost, but by growing around it, like a tree growing around a fence until they become one thing, stronger for having been broken. That's the magic Nadia's mother knew. That's the gift she left in that box. Not just a letter or a doll or a photograph, but a future, a family, a love that multiplies when you give it away. And every morning when that sunrise paints the sky with promises, three hearts beat as one, knowing that sometimes the best families aren't the ones you're born into, they're the ones you find when you're brave enough to ask a stranger, "Are you strong?" And they're brave enough to answer, "I suppose I am." If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that families come in all forms, that love finds a way even through loss, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Everbell's Stories for more tales that remind us we're never truly alone. And remember, be someone's sunrise. Be the light that comes back after the darkness. You never know whose life you might change just by showing up.
The box still opens now, easily, smoothly. Inside, Nadia keeps new treasures, a picture of her adoption day, a pressed flower from Camila's grave that she and Chase picked together, a small stone from the beach where they scattered some of her mother's ashes on a sunrise that painted the whole world gold. But the most precious thing isn't kept in the box. It lives in three hearts that beat together, in Sunday morning pancakes and homework help, and family movie nights where they all pile on the couch. It lives in Chase reading to Nadia when she has bad days, in Archer knowing exactly how she likes her toast, and the way they all look out for each other's broken places and handle them with care. It lives in knowing that sometimes the worst losses lead to the most unexpected gifts, that sometimes a stranger in a hospital cafeteria is actually family you haven't met yet, that sometimes all it takes is being brave enough to ask for help opening a box and kind enough to say yes when asked. The sunrise always comes, the light always returns, and love always multiplies when you give it away. Just ask Nadia. She knows. Her mama taught her, and now she teaches others one sunrise at a time.